Hi, I'm Angie Anderson. Welcome to another day of discovery. Today we're at the Art Institute of York, Pennsylvania in Springersbury Township looking at a gallery show called Objets Trouvés, Found Objects. We'll be talking to two people who are going to inspire you to understand some history and how it's been made modern again. Come on along. Hi, here we are in the gallery at the Art Institute of York, Pennsylvania. For those of you who don't know the Art Institute of York, it was at one time in the city of York on Philadelphia Street, and it was known as Bradley Academy. But several years ago, the Academy moved out to Springersbury Township, and here we are very close to the Springersbury Township municipal buildings, and we're here to look at another interesting exhibit. We've been here before, but this one was so spectacular I thought I'd invite some people back today. So I have with me my guest, Phil Smith. Hi Phil, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
It's nice to see you. Phil is the curator of this exhibit, and he has a whole lot of things to tell us about himself and how this gallery inspired him and this show inspired him.
Well, I've been teaching here at the Art Institute of York, formerly the Bradley Academy, I think for about 7-8 years at this point. I'm on the faculty for the Interior Design Department, specializing in residential design, color theory, form and development. So I teach a number of courses that are related to what our students study here at the school. So in addition to the work that you do as an instructor, you do some other work for private clients, and that's how this exhibit came about. Yes, I have my own business which specializes in residential design, and was talking to one of my clients in the Philadelphia area, and they like very much the reuse of old materials and green design and all that type of thing. And so I thought it was very natural that I had worked with Patrick on some other smaller projects, met him through a program that we as faculty members have here at the school, where we toured his facility, and I thought it would be a nice synergy for my client and Patrick and myself to get together. And we are presently working on a custom fireplace and mantle design, as well as some custom lighting for the client, all based on objects that are found, Objets Trouvés. And the name of the show is Objets Trouvés. My French isn't so good. I think I heard you say earlier, pardon my French, pardon mine also. Let me make a reference back to Patrick. Yes. Patrick is Patrick Sells. Yes. He is a York-based artist, yes, and the business that he owns is called Salavaging Creativity. Salavaging Creativity. Many people in the city of York will know Patrick's work and maybe recognize him. He's going to join us later on in our show. They will recognize him as the artist, the brilliant creative artist that made many of the recyclable materials that are on Beaver Street surrounding the city of York's Central Market. Those real cool trash receptacles, right, and some signage and the bike rack. And when Patrick does his work, he is salvaging a lot of industrial right, past of York, which yes, that all ties into this whole concept of the city of York and the surrounding areas as having a reputation for being known for their industrial design, and some of the synergies from that industrial design have been brought together into this really unusual and unique gallery show. Thank you. It's lovely. I've been here several times to celebrate it and told everybody I know to come and see it. It will be here through the end of February, right, February 29th. Yes. The gallery here is open from 9 in the morning until 9 at night. And then this coming Saturday, which will be the last Saturday of the show, it will be open until from 9 until noon if people want to come and see it. If you're not able to come and see it, hopefully this show will give you just a taste of it, and we'll do some more of it in the future here at the Art Institute. Thank you. So tell me a little bit about, we'll look at the pieces later, but tell me how all of this came together as an idea and then what it took to actually make it happen, because I think that behind the scenes stuff is something that people just can't imagine. The time allowed. Well, what happened is that I've been working with Patrick in the past on several different projects. Happened to be in Lancaster for their first Friday show, saw a young artist, an MFA candidate in painting up from Penn State, Bob Jenkins, and saw his watercolors. and asked him if he would be interested to show his watercolors here at the school. And the more I started to think about it, the more I realized that I wanted to curate a show that dealt with found objects, that dealt with recycling, finding beauty in the discarded items of the world, and that I wanted to get several artists involved so that I had several different interpretations of junk as art, junk becoming beautiful, all this kind of stuff. So Bob was kind of the springboard, and then I knew Warren because I've worked with Warren on some projects in the metropolitan New York area, also in Lancaster. He's done a project for me, and I'm doing another project in Swarthmore, where he is also becoming involved in designing the chandelier and wall sconces and things like that. So I approached Warren, went down to his Badi Badu studio in Philly, and talked to him, his partner, and several of the artists that are under his aegis at his studio, and asked if they would be interested to participate. And they all said, of course, yes. It was very kind of them to do so.
And so Warren Muller
Yes.
is the person who created much of the work that's in this gallery
Yes.
right now. And again, the name of his studio, which I think is so clever, is Badi Badu.
Badi
Can we
Badu.
spell that? B-A-H-D-E-E-B-A-H-D-U.
Yes,
Badi Badu.
Right,
Funny
Badi
name.
Badu. And if you go, they have a website,
Right.
and you can bring up their images.
A
yes.
little bit like the Beatles song.
Yes, yes. What's fascinating about Warren is that not only is he a nationally recognized artist, one of his pieces incorporated a actual Morris Mini car.
A Mini Cooper?
Yep, Mini Cooper.
Okay.
And it was a design challenge from a client of his, I believe owns an auto dealership in Philadelphia, and one day Warren was saying that this flatbed pulls up and the guy says, okay, here you go. He dropped it on the street and said, do something with it. And that particular piece appeared on a cover issue of Interior Design magazine. Warren was also found by the French firm that does the restorations of the chandeliers of Versailles.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so they asked him to come to France. They flew him over to France and asked him to go through their junkyards and through their bits and pieces of old chandeliers and create a lighting fixture for their museum in France.
And when I did a little bit of background research on Warren Muller, I see that he calls himself a luminary.
Yes.
So a good piece of his work, many pieces of his work are lighting fixtures. Are they all lighting fixtures or some kind of lighting?
I believe primarily lighting.
Primarily lit.
I mean, you
Okay.
see over here, there's a
we'll look.
lighted mattress, and but they're primarily lighting fixtures. Now, his partner R.J. Thornburg is the gentleman who does the found pieces with the old cans. They have a place up in the Poconos, and they go out salvaging and going through, the flea markets and things like that. And you'll notice there are some almost bas-relief pieces that are created from old rusty cans, which I found fascinating.
And then the artwork of Bob Jenkins
Yes.
is it's very interesting. It's old buildings, the interiors of old buildings that have probably been salvaged or were in the process of being salvaging, and they're really unusual. And while some people may not see this as art in its classic sense, many people like the more realistic art.
Yeah.
This is indeed beautiful art, and it's art that people purchase, it's art that people are interested in having. And I would expect that in a community like York, where we have had such a very rich industrial design history, and we have so many lovely buildings that are in many cases in the process of being renovated and redeveloped.
Right, such as Patrick's Studio.
Patrick's Studio, Salvaging Creativity, and also another project that I'm immensely familiar with is what will be happening in the Northwest Triangle of the city of York. And that is where we have the old Keystone Colorworks building and a whole nother plot of property that a lot of developers from the East Coast are now looking at as an area that can be developed. And in a very short while, those requests for proposals that the city of York sent out will become reality.
Yes.
That vacant space, which is probably the last piece of vacant space of that size in the city can be redeveloped into something that's vibrant, that brings people downtown, that creates energy, that invites youthful thinking. And so all of these found objects essentially become new again, and then they become centerpieces for opportunities for people to appreciate art, but also to gather around them and to explore the opportunities that come even from a result of the ideas that come from the art.
I really, as an artist, I mean, although I have my interior design business, my formal training is in fine arts. I have my Master of Fine Arts degree from RIT. I respond very positively. The piece behind you here is a photo collage made of discarded photographs that were thrown into a box and everybody thought was useless, and then suddenly you look at it and it's just a fascinating composition to look at. And so, I mean, all of these things have real value to be reinterpreted, reinvented, to have new life breathed into them.
And from my observations of just walking around in the gallery itself, there are lots of things that I've learned. Like, what is that, and why? What are those drawers? What were they used for? Where do you find this stuff? You know, how was it used in its original industrial form? And look at how it's being used now. And I'm seeing people are having outdoor garden sculptures made out of recycled materials and so forth. And I think it's really great. We're all about being green, and we're all about not wasting. And we're also maybe we need to use it in many cases as history lessons.
Yes.
Because back in the day, everybody had a telephone. How you had a telephone in your grandmother's house, and you picked it up with the receiver, and you dialed a number. And today's youth, the little kids, they don't know.
Texting.
They don't. We're all using tiny little smartphones, and so let's make sure that the children that are here now can understand the past, so that they can all take us into the future. Sometimes kicking and screaming, but to look at art and to look at what we have here.
What is also fascinating, I find fascinating about the show, is the fact that Patrick has kindly salvaged some junkyards for me. I called him up and saying, I need some help here, and he's brought objects that are really the raw material for the creative process. So that is interspaced with the actual artwork itself. You have the shavings, you have the old forms, all of these elements, and what it helps people to do is to say, gee whiz, look at that, that's an old spring. I never would have thought of that as maybe being worked into a structure of beauty.
So, Phil, if there were one thing that you wanted people to know about this particular show, or about the artists that came together to, what would that be, and how does it relate to the Art Institute of York and their students?
Probably that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, that these artists have forced us to look at discarded objects for their inherent beauty, for the color, for the texture that lies within. And I think it's important for students to realize that art is all around us. Art is taking something that nobody ever thought of before and reinterpreting it. I think it's important for our students to understand that art is an integral part of the living experience, and that art can come from anything.
So once again, we can give accolades to the Art Institute of York, Pennsylvania.
Oh, absolutely.
For their willingness to allow you to bring in your friends, your clients, contacts that you have, and have those individuals be able to influence and inspire the almost 600 students. I think that's the number.
Well,
maybe it's more that come to class here. And also, I know that earlier today there was an open house for prospective students, and this is the essentially living room of the Art Institute of York, Pennsylvania. And so when those students come and they're looking for a school that offers some real inspirational opportunity for the students to follow their passion and to learn about interior design and web design and fashion and
graphics,
fashion and graphics. These are the things that inspire not only the artists, but the students who will come here or who are currently studying here. So thank you very much for doing this. I think what we'll do is we'll do a quick tour, and then we'll talk with Patrick.
All right, very good.
Thanks.
Thank you, Angie.
So this is the work of Robert Jenkins.
Yes.
He is from the Reading area, and we talked about him a little earlier. What
Yes.
does he do?
He is an MFA candidate, Master of Fine Arts candidate in painting at State College, Penn State.
Okay. So these are watercolors. They're old buildings, the
Yes.
insides of old buildings.
Yes.
And this is what things look like sometimes before somebody comes in and makes them beautiful
Right.
again. So it's almost
Right.
like the before, and then afterwards we can take joy in the beauty that
Yes.
comes out of the work of salvaging
Creativity.
creativity. Exactly.
And what's interesting about his work is that these are large sheets of watercolor paper, and he's hanging them almost independently. So there's no framing or glass to distract from it. It has a real sense of reality, of immediacy when you look at the artwork.
I've just spent some time in a few old warehouses like this through my work, and it does look like that, and it has a feel, but I can't wait to see the finished product. And then the pieces that are here are the work of the guest that's coming next, and these
Yes.
are the works of Patrick Sells.
Yes. Yes.
And again, we're looking at, I'm not good at my mechanical
you talked
gears,
about
we're looking at your
gears,
gears. And somehow he finds art in this, and then we take it in, then you add
yes.
your beauty to it by bringing in all kinds of interesting greenery. And so no one can really imagine, but it takes so much creative energy to say, how can we take gears and make a planter out of it?
Well, it also kind of goes to, one time there was a quote, or somebody maybe paraphrasing a bit, but Michelangelo was asked, how do you come up with your sculptures and all this? And he says, all that I do is release the form that's already in there. Mm-hmm. So the form is there, and it's Patrick's creativity that releases the beauty, releases the form that you see here.
That's very amazing. This piece, I believe, is in the permanent collection at the Art Institute of York.
Yes.
And it's again, gears, some industrial stuff, and then he just took an old chair, and I think he took a chair and he burned it. And you say to yourself, okay, how is this art? But it is art because it's his vision of what he wants people to sit at, to look at, and to think about, and to wonder, how did he do it? Why did he do it? What inspired something like this? And then that it's at the Art Institute. What is that doing for people who are coming and seeing it here on a regular basis?
Well, I think it goes to again, releasing people's creative energies, understanding, looking at it, all this type of thing, art is communication. That's one of the things that I teach in one of my fundamental classes. That art is communication. Whether you like it or dislike it, it's not so as important as the fact that you are responding to it and you are formulating an opinion of it. So whether you like it or hate it, just respond to it, and that's what Patrick wants us to do.
So here we are. We're here with Patrick Sells. He is a partner in creating. Say it for me. I'm sorry.
Salvaging creativity.
I always get it backwards. Salvaging creativity. Salvaging Creativity is in the city of York.
Yes.
Where are you located?
We're on West Philadelphia Street in the same complex as Buckhart Horn, across from Roosevelt Tavern.
How long have you been there?
We have been working on that space since 2007.
Okay.
So, and still are.
You know what? I think everything should be a work in progress.
It always will be.
Because, what is it, the shoemaker's children have no shoes, right? You're so busy making art that you're not finishing your space. But your space is actually an artist homestead.
Yes, it is an artist homestead program.
I didn't want to spring this on you, but can you just do a little promo for the artist homestead, what it is and how it works?
Well, sure. It's set up by the Redevelopment Authority, and Kevin Schreiber staffs it. And we came into town, no idea about the program, and we're looking for a building, and we were kind of sent to Kevin. And once we got to his office, he took us around the town, he introduced us to people, he showed us the city, and then the program offered help with architecturals, some time from Murphy and Dittenhafer, and some financial assistance. And the best gift was sort of having the city there to help guide you through everything.
Well, good. That's a really good promotion for a very good project. I know the city has, at this point, about 11 artist homesteads actively opening their studios to the public and contributing public art. This is some of the public art that you create. You've contributed a lot of it. Where could we find pieces that reflect your creativity?
It's kind of, you can kind of go all over the city, from Reed Menzer Skate Park, the Memorial Skate Park down at the Ball Stadium and behind Penn State. Beaver Street, around Central Market there, from Philadelphia Street to Market Street. There's about 12 pieces out, from trash can, a bike rack, benches, and those types of things. If you look at Wagman Construction and Liquid Hero Brewery, there's some pieces there. And in the near future, come this spring, on North George Street, now we're just the facilitators, but there'll be, gosh, I think there'll be 10 new pieces coming out, and we're working with a group of artists in the North George Street businesses to have those pieces placed in June, so keep an eye out.
That makes me very happy because I happen to live on North George Street in the area that's going to be designed to be more walkable, more pleasant, some trash receptacles so we can take 10 on Tuesday and have a place to put our discarded items. So I'm very happy for that. I think you've also done, I've seen your work at Liquid Hero Brewery has their logo that you created. I know that you've done some work in the White Rose Bar and Grill.
Yes,
that
we are in the White Rose.
Very amazing bar on the Philadelphia Street side. The far side of the restaurant, headed west, is fabulous.
Yeah, and it's one of those, that one is still ongoing, so there's a lot more to come.
It's not a finished
That's why it
piece.
doesn't really register for me yet, because we haven't, fully unveiled it, even though it's been out for about a year.
It's a beautiful, what do you call it? Do you call it a sculpture? Do you call it a creation?
I guess the best way to explain it is, in the end, I'd love to have some sort of visual where you could go online and you could see that it's sort of a representation of all things that are made around York City. If you could call out all these different industries out of all the pieces and parts that are represented in the bar. So it's sort of a story.
It's a story.
Yeah.
It's not even, you won't call it a piece of art or an installation. It's a story.
It's stuff, and it's all up there.
It's a history story because we have such a rich heritage in industrial design and the creative arts, and those creative arts and industrial design have married one another, and a lot of what we think of, or many people think of as discarded, is now brought to life again in a form that people can be entertained, be inspired, their eyebrows might raise at it sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
What do people say to you about your work?
It's either they love it or they hate it, and sometimes, you hate it, and then the more you look at it, you're like, this is different, and then you start to like it after a while. But if you hate it, that's fine too. It's telling a story, and we were a very heavy industrial town. In our heyday, we probably had more industry than any other city at our scale. And today that is a lesser degree around the world, but people don't realize, in our day-to-day paths, we're not in, the industry of making things generally. So you don't see kind of behind the scenes and all these companies that are doing pretty amazing things, right in our city. So. And
if I wanted to find other pieces, I think you just unveiled a new gateway. Is that what you would call it?
Yes, it was the York County Economic Development Corporation, now the York County Economic Alliance, came to us about a year and a half ago. And they have the complex, which was the old Borg Warner, York Ice Machinery, York International, now Johnson Controls. They left behind that facility, and YCEDC developed it and put Buchart Horn in there and a bunch of other businesses. And about 15 years ago, they wanted to do a sign but didn't have the funds to do so. So it was really exciting that they kind of came to us. It was in our, in our block, and a piece that we could collaborate on.
And that was unveiled last week, and so people will see a new gateway to that particular area of the city. And ultimately, it would be so nice if you and other artists with whom you collaborate can keep making the city little block by block or quadrant by quadrant more interesting, share history, heritage, and inspiration with us. So let's look at a few of the other pieces. I said earlier that this is a piece that is in the permanent collection at the Art Institute. What happened? How did this happen? What did you do? What were you thinking?
Well, it was originally a show request that Philip Smith came up, when a chair is not a chair.
When a chair is not a chair.
We took, our idea and our mentality is we've sort of lost something with mass production. We've lost a connection to the people who make things and sort of a truth in the materials and the style or the design of what something is. So we took a chair design that was something that is from the 30s when design was supposed to be reachable to everyone. And it's now gone. It's mass produced in China of all sorts of unhealthy materials. And then we took a piece of older, something that could likely have been made of corn husker in this region. And we kind of ran the chair through it and tore it up and left the tags available so you could see the sort of lie underneath.
You must have so much fun in your studio.
Sometimes.
You bang things and wrap them around things and melt them and How fun is that? Tell me a little bit about your background. How did you get into salvaging creativity?
This was never an intended path. We did engineering and were fascinated with bicycles and fixing cars and my grandfather built furniture. So I was in his wood shop. My father worked at Bethlehem Steel. So somehow all that came together. I went to engineering school and came out wanting to engineer things but not be stuck in the rigid, follow the 7-inch binder of black and white rules. And it evolved to making gifts and buying equipment and setting up a workshop on a farm in Maryland. And then we needed more space and we had a fascination with industrial materials. So it kind of morphed into what you see today.
And so you left Maryland and you moved to York, and here you are making a name for yourself and working with people like Warren Muller from Philadelphia. And so what you're doing is you're merging with other artists and you're collaborating to give us new inspiration and to help lessen the landfills of things that have become art.
Sure.
Fantastic. This is super. Piece here is an old, tell me what this is.
This is a foundry pattern.
It's wood. Okay.
And this is from Borg Warner, from York International. And we were fortunate to come across a large sort of storehouse of these patterns. It was from the old refrigeration, the equipment, pressure vessels. So it really made some odd shapes. But these would be pressed into sand, and then generally iron would be poured into the sand to produce your mold. Sometimes a core box or something else would hold the form. If you look closely, you can see all the joints. This is, someone back in probably 1930 had to look at a flat paper plan and cut this out from it. Now we have a machine that'll just cut it out all at once.
But it gave people work, real work, that made them feel like they contributed to society.
And there are very few people around who still do this, but a lot of times when you have a pattern, I partner with a lot of industries in the area, for instance, Rudy Art Glass. We have to go back to a few guys that are in their 80s in the Navy shipyards in Philadelphia to get a pattern made in certain styles and shapes and forms, because those skills just aren't around anymore.
And maybe you'll help bring those skills back in some form or another. The pressure's on here, Patrick. So I guess the question that I would ask, let's look at this piece over here. This another, this is wood again too.
It's all wood and leather fillets, and then the labels and everything that would indicate which machine it went to.
Okay, that's very interesting. And it can be a piece of beauty.
Sure.
If you have the right space.
Yeah.
What does your house look like, your home, where you live?
Well, just piles and piles of materials, different types from stone, wood, steel, glass, and then back on the farm in Maryland, there's still stacks of steel and old machines and tractors and things that we cut up and
You're not a
make
hoarder.
into other. I hope not. I wonder. As long as the piles stay pretty neat and accessible.
Well, and
okay.
if you make art out of them, then it's not hoarding. I think it's when you sit in the pile of it.
If you bury yourself
If you bury
and hide
yourself
in
in
it.
Right. Or if you have 45 cats along. Am I hitting
They
a
keep
nerve?
showing up in the building, but.
Okay, well, it's really lovely to be with you here today. And we're so proud to have you in the city of York, and we're happy that you're working with all the students at the Art Institute and the faculty who absolutely think that there's nothing better than having the opportunity to hang out with such cool people. And I guess the question that I always ask at the end of every interview is, if there were one thing that you wanted people to take away from either Salvaging Creativity or what's in this gallery, what would that be?
Well, I think, where we're headed is, everybody calls us artists. I see we're more sort of craftsmen. We're trying to learn skills and see materials in a new way, and we see this sort of divide between the human industrial and the natural world, and we'd like to see more of blending of that. I think sort of the ultimate is taking the positives and the creative from both and making objects. And what we'd like to kind of grow towards and build is we'd like to facilitate other artists coming to these materials, learning these skills, and producing similar objects. So that's the next step in salvaging creativity and what we'd like to become.
And if people would like to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
You can go to salvagingcreativity.com, and our email addresses are on there. So.
That's fantastic. Now, I just want to mention one thing before we finish. I found you in the library at the Art Institute of York, Pennsylvania. You said that you come here a lot. Tell me what you do here.
Well, we go digging. It's a great resource. There's tons of books here, and if it's not here, you can get Nancy to find it for you.
You're talking about Nancy McCleary,
yes.
Or Carrie Wright?
Yes,
right?
Librarians here. It's part of the York County Library System and also part of the Art Institute. So, wonderful resource. And
it is open daily from noon to 8 for the public, and that's Monday through Friday, and then on Saturdays from noon until 5. And it is a fantastic resource for people who need information about art. There's a children's section. There's a wonderful periodical section. And they are a branch of the Martin Memorial Library, so you could get books here that you could have books sent here, you could drop books off here, and you have the expertise of people here who understand the volumes that are related to art and design in this library. They're very much specialized. So that's give them a little plug. And again, say thank you to you and to the Art Institute for hosting us here today. It's always a pleasure to see you. Take care. Thanks a lot, Patrick.
Angie.
And then again, you mentioned these. This is a series of 6 very rusted paint cans.
Yeah, and this is from R.J. Thornburg. And what's nice about this is really relies upon, when you look at it, it's got its own composition, it's got its own coloration, it's basically a bas relief, and you're looking at it so the artist looked at these cans and arranged them into a specific order so that they are interesting to look at. Again, solicit a response from the viewer. These are wonderful objects that I would certainly recommend to any client to put into their home. They are truly things of beauty, and the more that you look at them, the more nuances that you see within the pieces themselves.
And there's so much that we forget about from our past, and I think this tells us a little bit about, there's a lot of decay in the world, but when you take some of the decay and you put it in plexiglass and then you say, how can we look at it differently?
You isolate it, and I think that many times that's what art is. It isolates an image so that you can focus on it. Yeah.
Great. And now we're going to what I would call the centerpiece.
Pièce de résistance.
We're doing all kinds of French words here today, Phil. Pièce de résistance. This is the chandelier by the very well-known luminary from Philadelphia.
Warren Muller. Yes.
Warren Muller, yes. And describe it.
Well, it's really a concept of forms, of looking at the various ways that light plays off of the pieces. You see in here a child's rocking horse, looks like an old bed frame, an old fishing net, and
I think that's a bike up there, maybe.
There's a fishing net right up there, and they're arranged for the textural values. It's basically an achromatic composition, but you're really looking at it for its textural values and the way that light plays and is incorporated into the piece itself.
And I don't have a large enough, high enough ceilings or a large enough room, but this could be an amazing piece hung in the proper space. And this gallery is a proper space, but also in somebody's home, in somebody's very large foyer, in somebody's party room.
Right.
And what's a price range for something like this?
I think this is $15,000 for this particular piece.
Wow. Yeah. Pretty amazing.
Well, and people say, well, why is it worth it? Well, it's because somebody has looked at things differently and is isolating things. As I said, Warren has done several chandeliers for me, and each one is unique, each one is different, each one incorporates aspects of the client's personality. I had one client in Lancaster that brought Warren some of their own memorabilia, and he has incorporated it into a chandelier, for a beautiful chandelier.
Well, and I don't know about you, and this is just a personal opinion, but when I purchase art, or I think about purchasing art or hanging art in my home or giving it as a gift, I always try to identify with the artist. And if I have a connection to that person, and I did meet Warren here, and I immediately was, he has a magnetic personality, and he's very open, and he speaks about his work with such joy and passion that I thought to myself, wow, I mean, if you can...
But people do make a personal connection.
Yes.
A good example of that is a job that I did up in Tarrytown for some clients. I brought them in from New York and introduced them to Warren, and we were looking at their chandeliers, and basically this is kind of wild and crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the chandelier, the husband was, probably thought, what has Phil got me into now? Mm-hmm. And he was looking at the chandelier, and suddenly he saw some things, and there were a pair of skis in it. There was a fishing net into it, and he said, "Oh, I remember teaching my kids to ski. Oh, I remember teaching my kids to fish on the Hudson. Mm-hmm. We'll take it."
Beautiful.
So there's always that immediate. In art, you have to be able to connect to it. You've got to be able to see it, but there's got to be some personal relationship. Otherwise, it's just stuff.
And then this is a brilliant piece. When I first looked at it, I didn't read the artist statement. We'll talk a little bit about artist statements in a minute, but I didn't read it. But then I realized it has a theme, and I thought, okay, what is it? So explain this. This is a mattress, an old mattress.
An old mattress from probably looks like from a box spring.
It's not from a sleeper number bed.
No.
Very old.
And what's interesting about it is that the shape of the piece itself. This was the way that Warren found it. So suddenly he sees the shape. It starts to remind him of things. He looks at the shape for its aesthetic value as well, and then starts thinking in terms. This is called animal dreamland, and so all the connection between sleep and the animals, and you just want to say to Warren, what were you thinking? And he would certainly be more than willing to talk to you about it, because he really does appreciate people looking at his objects and being quizzical. There's a black leopard from the 50s. You remember those?
Right. And there's some lovebirds down here.
There's goats.
And that's a goat.
Deer and horses and cats and dogs.
And there's an upside down poodle. And that looks like a little chihuahua up there.
Yeah.
Maybe
a little English King George Spaniel.
Yes, and so you can, when you read the artist statement, then you can say, oh, well, this is how he was thinking.
Yes.
Talk briefly about what an artist statement means and why they're done.
Well, I ask for them so that the viewer comes in and understands where the artist is coming from. It usually helps to explain the piece a little bit further that might not necessarily be observable on the first go around. So you take a look at the statement and you understand that the artist this did not happen by happenstance. It was a thought process that goes into it. And many times the statement really helps to support and give you further understanding to what the piece is all about.
Well, this is certainly a gallery exhibit that you can't walk through and not stop. I know that the students use this as a pass-through from one area of the school to the other, but you can't walk through it and not have your attention immediately pulled to something. And if that's what happens for our friends from the community when they come in here, that they keep a little extra time. Don't say, "Oh, I want to go see that gallery show," and then say, "I'll fly in and out in 15 minutes." You need to steep yourself in it and ponder it and reflect. And so, thank you for this brilliant tour. Let's go over here and just see how we say this French word that I'm not so good at French at. And Objet trouvé. And it is truly a fascinating show, and I thank you so much for inviting us in today, and I hope that the viewers who see this both online and on television will come to the art gallery.
We really do want the community to come and visit the school, come and visit the exhibit, because it is noteworthy.
And when they're done with this exhibit on the 29th of February, then the next exhibit that comes in is a very well-known annual exhibit that happens here at the Art Institute of York on Williams Road in Spring-Sperry Township. And that exhibit is called DDX, the Digital Design Experience. It's a little bit more contemporary, I would say. It's not looking at ancient old pieces. It's new, it's technology, it's web design, it's interactive media, and a lot of other very interesting things. And that gallery show will be running through the entire month of March.
Yes.
And they also have a lovely reception. If people want to know more about it, they can call the school. And I can give you the number for the school right now. The number for the Art Institute of York, Pennsylvania is 717-755-2300. And the lovely woman who answers the phone, Susie, she will give you whatever information you need about DDX and anything else that you need to know about the gallery. So again, thank you so very much for joining me today, and I'll come back anytime you invite me.
Thank you.
Take care.
Be good. Thank you. Thank you very much,
Thanks.
Angie.